I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is Stoneblock 4. Ah, yes, more Stoneblock 4, and today we are really pushing the boundaries of the pack. We are going to start our production of singularities and many other things that are going to lead us into the infinity, aka the creative items. Well, I mean, of course, not before making the infinity world upgrade, which is the main reason why we're working on all of this. And this chain right here, while it does look very simple, it requires multiple steps. But my goal today is to hopefully be able to make our first infinity ingot. And it's all going to start right here with the neutronium compressor, which is going to require some time fluid and some Fortron, which we do have, and at least the void container upgrade for our world engine, which we currently have. And now that we have a neutronium chicken that we gathered last episode, most of these things should be rather straightforward, with the hardest thing being here to make the ultimate machine core. But honestly, the Promethium ingots, I mean, we can make those quite easily. They do take a little bit of time just because of all of the cycles that have to take place in order for them to be produced. But yeah, we can make them in the atomic forge. Like, that's no problem. And it's already set up and automated. So with all of these components set up for autocraft, except for the machine core, let's go ahead and make this for the world engine. We'll drag this all the way down to the bottom so that way we can get this started. And we are going to need this for multiple singularities, but I don't know if we're going to need more than one of these neutronium compressors. I really don't know. We may be able to automate this with just a single one, honestly, with AE. We'll have to see. Now, as far as this goes, this is also another world engine upgrade. It looks like our world engine required upgrade here. Perfect. And we'll throw that all the way down into the world engine. Man, it's getting a little cramped down here. Yeah, a lot of things being crafted down here. But there we go. Neutronium compressor. Let's get this autocraft start. It's just going to take a little bit of time. That is one of the downsides, I think, once we automated the world engine, is it just kind of is another machine that you just don't really visit too often, unless you start to get nervous and you're like, man, this is taking a long time and maybe something's broke. But yeah, outside of that, I don't even really go to the world engine that often. But it did finish it up because there was the toast for that. And now we have ourselves a neutronium compressor. Now I'm interested to see how this does function. Like, if we take any of the things that are required for this, for example, copper, does it lock it into this particular thing? And it wants 400? And so it'll continue doing that until it receives 400 copper? Is that what I'm seeing here? Like 400 blocks of copper, by the way. You know what? And it's pretty quick. It looks like it's maybe consuming once every tick, or a little bit slower than that. But yeah, once it receives 400, does the block of copper go away, or is it always going to basically be bound to copper? I don't know. Just a little testing with Chosen, that's it. But I guess it's the moment of truth. We put that in, and okay, interesting. So it does have a limitation, but what I'm essentially seeing here is, yeah, I mean, we can possibly utilize one. I don't think it's going to be the fastest, but we can definitely utilize this one for now until we need more of these possibly. I don't know. It might be better off to potentially just fully automate all of these. Now, another test that'll be really interesting here is by using a neutronium compressor and a pattern provider. And maybe the pattern provider can send to this faster, or if it doesn't, then we kind of probably want to set this up passively. For example, Durathium, I think we have a bunch of. This says this recipe is going to need 100 in order to produce this. So if we are to build a pattern of this, it only is going to display one, but we can set this to 100 specifically, and now it's going to inject 100 to be able to make this singularity. So put that pattern in. We can say, are we going to be able to make this singularity quickly? We'll hit start, and it did put them all in, but it doesn't actually make the machine go any faster. I guess that's where time acceleration would make it faster. But yeah, having a pattern provider on top and an import bus on the bottom, I mean, that's probably one of the simplest methods of setting this up for automation. I mean, the interesting thing, though, is that most of these ingots aren't really that ridiculous to make, and all of this leads up to making one infinity catalyst. And I think the infinity catalyst is, yeah, we need 8 infinity catalysts in order to make one infinity ingot. So you know what? I think somewhat passive is going to be a good idea for this. And what I mean by somewhat passive is we'll have this constantly generated until it reaches a certain amount by using the requester. And up here, I'm just going to set up all 6 of these because at the moment we are making 6 individual singularities to be able to make the infinity singularity. Now this is where things get a little weird, right? Because we could potentially have 6 individual things processing at any given moment. That means that our CPUs might start to get a little bit backed up. And this is where having a quantum computer would definitely solve this problem. And we're pretty close to, I think, being able to make a quantum computer with like no problem. But we could just make some more of these regular co-processing units and just simply place them all back here and hope that we can set priority. I'm unsure of how that works though. I don't know if we can define specifically what crafting CPU to use on this thing. Yeah, I don't think so. You know what? Now the more I think about the requesting setup, the more I'm like, okay, no, exporters is probably going to be the way to go. And we'll just regulate using AE system, yeah, to turn off the exporters. So yeah, I think exporters with level emitters here might be a good solution. Kind of, yeah, saving our CPUs. I think this will be a much better option. Now, inside of each of these, we are going to need redstone cards, and we're going to make sure that this redstone is set to active with signal is what I usually do. And with that set up inside of here, we want this to be emit when levels are above or equal to the limit. We want this to give a redstone signal when the levels are below. So yeah, emit when levels are below limit, which I think is exactly what we want. Believe, yes, it's going to send a signal until it reaches, then it shuts the signal off. So the cool thing is once we set this, we don't have to worry about anything else. We can just simply take our memory card, shift right click, and we can just right click here and it will automatically put the redstone card and also set the configuration for everything correctly. So when doing larger networks, this is definitely the way to go. Same for the level emitter. We shift right click and we right click onto here. It's going to paste all of the settings that we just assigned to all of those things. And now all we have to worry about is just simply putting the items in here that we want. So first one will be the Durathium. And let's just say for right now, let's get 1. And so long as we have 1 in our system, then we know to basically shut this off. And as of right now, it's not emitting. So I'm thinking that the signal is actually wrong. Emit when levels are below limit. That should be sending a signal. Ah, yes, it would be sending a signal if I hadn't already made one. Yes, now we can see it is working. Okay, so that is correct. Now the only thing we'd have to do is simply drop in the required goods that are going to be for this, which in this case is this one. And we can put upgrades in here. Yeah, I think it might be worthwhile to making sure that you have all of those upgrades in there so it sends as much as it can. But it will definitely shut it off once it has received that. And that has gone off. So there it goes. No more has gone in. There's a little bit of residual that goes in here. But yeah, that's just because we want to keep that amount in stock. And if we want the speed, oh man, we're going to have to deal with leaving a little bit of items, a few more items in here. But now after basically setting up our first one, all these other ones, I don't want to put in the extractor just yet, because each one of these ingots, I kind of want to have a system that can basically infinitely produce them that are separate from all of our other systems, specifically for the Fortron infused ingots and the Enderium, because I think I probably have enough of the Energite ingots and definitely the Durathium to be able to make just about as many of these as I want. But these other things are going to require some processes, and I don't want to cram up the world engine. So instead, I want to craft them this way by taking liquid Fortron and having them produced inside of this thing, an Enderic infuser. And also on this one, we will use an Enderic infuser with Fortron to be able to produce Enderium ingots, which are separate. But these, they require stress, and I don't know how many of our electric motors we're going to need to be able to do this. And it looks like making this thing is kind of simple, actually. It does require a screen from RF Tools, which I find kind of funny. I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense that it goes in here. But yes, I mean, yeah, it's another one of those easy crafts. So after making that generator, I wanted to see how much actual create stress was going to be required in this thing. And yeah, at the max RPM at 256, we are looking at being able to complete this. I feel like, yeah, we are able to complete this with 2 electric motors. If I'm seeing that correctly, it was 0 capacity, but we're not overstressed. Look at that. So yeah, 2 of these running at max 256 easily keeps this going. That's great. By the way, I'm using a stressometer, and to be able to see what's in the stressometer, I'm using the engineer's goggles just to kind of check and to be able to see how much this actually takes. And so, yeah, it's easier than I thought. Now, of course, to make this a little bit easier on myself, so that way I can arrange this differently. I don't know if I have to power this specifically from the bottom, but I do want to use an encased chain drive, I think on the back, and then we can do one down and one up, and I can just put a motor right back here. Yeah, both motors can just go back here. Yeah, this is going to be how I power this. It's going to look just like this. Set them to 256, and then just give them power. These are also going to need a resistive heater, and I think both of them have the same temperature requirements of 450. Yeah, so it basically needs everything that we've done up to this point. So I'm going to place the resistive heater in between the two, and that should heat up both of them. Now, the only other thing is just getting enough of the modular force field liquid out of here. We need a lot of Fortron if we're going to be making any of these things. So we're probably going to have to tick accelerate this. And yeah, otherwise we're going to need like a million of these things to be able to keep up. You know, nothing a little soul surging can't help. So we can place some soul surge stuff back on the back here. Let's see, I am going to need, I think, a few more, at least one more of those. We'll make sure and set an interface right here, and then we'll right click this into the interface to pull the soul surge material in and just connect all of the pipes. And we are ready to start soul surging. I mean, this I hope will be able to generate enough of this quickly, but there's still a chance that it may not. Like, this may not even be able to be accelerated properly. I have no idea. Okay, so we'll just get some gates on here just to make sure we have enough power going to these. And let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. Being accelerated like that with the soul surge. Oh yeah, that's generating plenty. That's so much. Now, to get the material in here quick enough, that's another story. So we can use pipes, but if I use the pipes mod in this, we'll have to have a connection on all sides. Maybe if we do mechanism, I bet the mechanism pipes will probably be fast enough, right? We'll use the ultimate, not logistical, that's not the pipes. We need these, the mechanical pipes. So yeah, we'll make a few mechanical pipes. And the hopes that is going to be enough. Let's take my configurator, and then we'll line them all up. The reason why I wouldn't want to use pipes here is because we'd have to have an upgrade basically in every single pipe. But with Mekanism, it works a lot differently. You don't have to worry about like pipe upgrades specifically. You just simply transfer the stuff over and you're good to go. So we'll set all of these to extract. And both of these should share the extraction recipe here. It's just the goal of hoping that this fills up. I know the pipe itself is going to have a really large buffer. Yeah, this is going to work. Now, the plan is to use an import-export bus on the bottom, and hopefully that'll be fast enough to share everything between the two. But we do have to set our output here. So let's go in, let's clear this slot, and we just want this to be output. We don't even need to set it to auto output. We just want to make sure that is defined. And then same on this side, we'll clear output to the bottom, and yeah, just leave it at that. And you know what, I think at first I might try to do this with the ingot form like this, but I do know that making the Fortron infused blocks will definitely be faster. But let's try an ingot form so we don't have to integrate any crafting into the scenario here. I prefer to not need to craft it into blocks. So iron and platinum is required. So we'll place this on, and we want to make sure this is set to scheduling mode, and then we'll say iron and platinum. That should be just fine, and this is going to import, and it's going to automatically export and then import as well. So as soon as it hits to 8, this will jumpstart, and there it goes. Okay, so yeah, I think this is going to be more than fine. That's incredibly fast. Yet again for this, yeah, we definitely want to limit how much we're producing here because we are sending this directly into our system. So making sure we can shut this off would be a good idea. So I'll use the level emitter again and do like 2048. I think that's fine for right now. The same settings that we set up on the other side. If we have this amount in stock, don't make any more. And so that is definitely shut off because I think that made way more than I thought it was going to. Oh boy. And then preemptively on the other side, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Except this one is making the Enderium. So let's put this in place. This right here is Ender Pearls and Dragon. And then we also want to set this one to export round robin, throw some speed upgrades in here. Ender Pearl and Dragon. And hope that that puts that in there correctly. Nope. Nope. Make sure you put, there we go. Okay. Perfect. And then that should speed up soon. Ooh, unless, I mean, this could definitely become a problem here. I mean, that's on. We don't want that to happen. We want it to round robin, but it's not exporting round robin. What are you doing? Well, you know what? Scratch that. I thought I was going to make this setup look a little bit simpler, but you can't lock these slots to being a specific item. So yeah, this setup is not going to function here. Instead, we're going to have to use something a little bit different. You know what? We can leave this just about the same that we currently have right now. I'll just kind of change up the interface sides. I think that will work. So this is becoming a little bit more complicated than it probably needed to be. But our inputs here, we want to change this to be specifically on the right hand side. So that way that is the only thing that can go there. And then on the left, we will say, hey, only input from the bottom. So that way we can leave this and still get our auto export happening at the bottom here too. But now we'll have an exporter that is on this side. And also everything will still be controlled the exact same way with the redstone, because this will shut off the pulling of the items too. So it won't craft anymore once it fills up. So now we can remove this, and just to make sure our recipe is correct, we want the dragon on the bottom. So we'll remove the ender pearl from here, and then I'll just move the ender pearl to this exporter, throw in some speed upgrades. Same with this one, throw in some speed upgrades, take this out, and that should solve the problem. It's so weird though. And you know what? Just to make sure it wasn't a fluke that it didn't happen on this one, I'm going to set this one up the exact same way too. So now we're on to automating infused ender pearls. So I think I want to do this with a tier 3 crafter. And so the result is going to go down here into the frame drawer. We'll set up a puller to automatically pull that result down into here. That should automatically fill that drawer so we can connect it into the network. And everything else is going to be handled with AE, just simply sending the base components. And this again is to reduce the crafting demand on our system. Now inside of this, we'll set all of these individual ingredients up that are required to make this pearl. And then I like to take cobblestone and surround the rest of it, so that way we can lock all of the inputs, so we only keep like a stack of it in stock at any given time. And we can hit remember now after doing that. So this is pretty straightforward. We want to, on our first slot up here, we want to craft the dimensional shard gem, which is then going to end up going in here. So we'll craft this, and this is going to go into the internal buffer by setting the internal here. And then the next is just simply crafting the actual pearl itself, which we are going to be supplying the pearl, and that is going to be going into the exit. So going to the output. And that's all we need. We could have probably done this on a smaller version or a lower tier, but that's everything really needed. Let's go into functional storage and then make sure we have a puller upgrade. And this will be kind of what limits the whole thing, right? Is just the speed that the puller upgrade goes in. But I think it's a good idea because we don't want this going too fast, even though it will go fast. Now, we also need an extended export bus. So I'm going to take all of the base items here. Ooh, actually, I need to throw those back in, don't I? Because we want to make sure those are remembered. And I think by me holding shift kind of breaks all of that. And we do need to pull out every single one of these items that are required and make sure we put that in the list, including ender pearl. We don't need the shards. So we can just hold down shift and all of those things get put in and make sure it's set to round robin mode. And now all of those items should get pulled out of our AE system after I set my value here for how many to keep in stock. And so for this, we can say 2048 as well. These are starting numbers for right now. And you can see all of those items are going in, and throwing in some acceleration upgrades will make this happen a bit faster. Perfect. All right, now let's get our gate. Just simply give this some power. And it is now producing those Enderous pearls. And in here, we want to pull from the upside. And now we have it on autocraft. Look at that. And to make sure that our AE system can even see what we have in stock, Well, we're going to have to take this, lock it, and link it. And now we're almost done with making all of these things fully automatic. There's just a couple of other things we need to do. We need the Energirite ingots, and we also want to autocraft the Uraninite. And this is going to require us to make, well, some energizing orbs. Now, this operation might get a little bit more complicated the more I think about it, because we do have to regulate how many items are going into the energizing orb. And there's not really a good way to do that with AE without getting a little bit more complicated with multiple different level emitters and having multiple extractors on one orb. I think we can actually dive into another mod that we haven't touched on the entire series, and that's Laser IO. It's really good at this. So to be able to get into Laser IO, we really are going to need 2 nodes, because we have 2 of these that we're going to be crafting. And we're also going to need, I believe, 4 of the item cards. We're going to need 2 for this one and possibly 2 for this one. So if you've never seen this mod, it's really straightforward. Essentially, the side that is connected to, or the side you click on, is the side that opens up inside of the interface. And you have all of the different directions and faces that this is connected to. And kind of the TLDR is we're going to be using the item cards to pull and also send items. So Laser IO works just like any other pipe mod, except for, yeah, you're using cards essentially to do this. So let's give ourselves the area that we're going to be pulling from. For example, we're going to be pulling from the interface for both of these. And so the interface is going to be what is going to contain our items, which in our case is going to be the fluxite and also the nickel. Now we need to pull. So let's go ahead and right click this card, and we can set this into an extract. Now, at the moment, all extractions that happen are going to be looking for an insert card, which is the green. By default, these are set to insert. But it's also looking for an insert card that's on the white channel. And this is what makes this very similar to how Ender.io used to be, or kind of still is we have 16 different channels here that we can play around with and route everything in that direction. But we really don't have to worry about more than just that, because all we want to do is click up here, which is the top that the interface is connected to, and put this extraction card in here. That's going to pull from here, both of these items, and then we need to send it down here. And so this send card is where things get a little bit more complicated, because I want to use something that's called a counting filter. And this allows us to regulate. Just by putting these 2 items in here, we can set this to a particular value, which I think is pretty cool. So we just have both of these in there, and I only have it defined as 1. I think if I had more fluxite in my inventory, that's when I could set this to 64, for example. Or we can shift right click and bring it back up. But we just want 1 to 1. That's all we want. And that's all that it'll allow it to send into this machine at any given time. So if I put this item card in the bottom, we'll notice that's exactly what it's going to do, and no more is going in here. Now we're going to get into speeding this up here in a minute, but I've got to do the same thing over here, but for uranium. So let's get these some power, and these are now both set up and looking pretty good. I'm going to use the Power Mods energizing rods. I'm going to use nitro ones here because we can easily just craft nitro, so might as well. And I'm hoping that these actually linked. I may have to actually make the wand just to make sure that these did link properly. Make sure this is in link mode, and it didn't. Notice this one linked to this one. So we are going to change this one's linking by using the wrench and shift right clicking, and you can change this to different modes. Link is the mode that we want. So we should only need 1. These don't require a whole lot of power, so this will make this incredibly fast. And speaking of fast, let's give it some power, put the gates on here, and notice these are crafting. But boy, are they rather slow. I mean, I know that this pulling is pretty slow, but this sending of the 2 items is very slow. So to make this faster, we primarily need to look at our export here. And you can see right now, transfer 1 every 20 ticks. So 1 item every 20 ticks. But if we put some of these overclocker upgrades in here, we can actually make this 1 item every tick. And that is significantly faster, as you can see. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. 4 of those cards to make this every tick. Very quick. Now, our big limiting factor is just how fast these can pull. And I would say that's fast enough for now. Now, the only thing that needed done was tossing in an upgrade here, and it's going to store, a 49,000. You know what? I'm probably going to pull this particular version out. Let's just put, like, I don't know, a gold upgrade in here. That seems way too much. I really want to limit how much of this we're producing. And so 32,000, wow, that even seems like too much. You know what? 16,000 I think is a good amount, and that's the copper upgrade I think does that. 16K seems more reasonable to keep in stock. Yeah, beautiful. Because our main thing is the fluxite here. We have a lot of it, don't get me wrong, but yeah, we don't want to completely drain our whole network of it. And you know, honestly, this just could be me super overthinking the whole situation. I've been known to do that. And you know what? Back over here, we can now actually set up our singularities. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we have the Durathium. Now do the Fortron. So we'll take our Fortron infused ingot. And as soon as we place that in here, it should make enough to make one singularity. So long as we throw some speed upgrades in here, that's going to get processed up. That'll make one. And it should eventually shut it off. Yes, by the time it made two, it shut it off. Then we have our Enderium, which yet again is going to have this same sort of process here. So that one is fully ready, and that one will also shut off as soon as it has like one or two at the moment. There it goes. And then now for the Energirite. I think that's how it's worded. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, and I'm doing it the whole time. But there we go. That one is good to go too. Now for the infused Ender Pearl. That should just pull out, no problem too. And that's going nice. And then lastly over here, we have our Uraninite, which is now being processed up. And so Uraninite goes in there, get some acceleration upgrades, and hopefully start making. Oh, did I not? I forgot to link, I think. Yes. Okay. So our final thing we have to do, lock these, link them to the network. Aha. And now that's going to start running. Look at that go. And now that I have all of those singularities ready to go, it is now time to make the crafting recipe that combines all of those into an infinity singularity. And these are technically on passive craft. I just need to set the value. For example, like let's keep 16 of those in stock, 16 of those in stock, and so on and so forth. But everything should look pretty good here. We go down to the world engine, we place down in that infinity, and I think that we are ready to craft this. Like we have one of everything. I just want to double check. Do we have enough temperature? Is our setup down there at the world engine, is it hot enough? Yes, it's at 800, almost 900. And we are cooking here at 4,000 RF in this thing. So good to know. Good to know that's kind of the temperature we'll be at. And so we can actually craft our first infinity. And there it goes. Infinity singularity. Done. Checks and balances from the cosmos. Look at that. All of this preparation leading to this very moment. And there we go. 150 buckaroos. Oh man, use these to create the infinity singularity, which we have done. And then it tasks us with the infinity ingot itself. And this does require infinity catalysts. So these are an entire thing of its own, but not too bad. The even the pearl here, very easy for us to make, but it is a world engine craft. I mean, honestly, we can make all of this, I think. Just to make one of these ingots requires 8 of these others, though. And it also requires the stable antimatter. Those all have interesting processes of their own, and I think they'll be best explained in the next episode. So today we made the infinity singularity, and honestly, it wasn't too bad. And I think this is definitely the most reachable pack for most people. Like, none of this stuff is what I would call incredibly expert mode. It's honestly not too bad, and we could easily passively craft these if we wanted to. But now that we have a little bit of this math in our head, we know we need 8 of those to make this. You know what? I think the good number here would be like 72. So make sure there are at least 72 in stock at any given time for these. And that means we would have enough in here to technically craft a block of the infinity. I think that's going to be perfect. Now, if you did enjoy today's episode and you learned something new, whether it was how to automate any of these new machines, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and well, give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And also don't forget to comment down below what so far has been your best part of the mod pack to watch. Like, I would love to hear from you down in the comments. And of course, without further ado, it's time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Ghost. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and just supporting my content in one of the best ways possible. You absolute boss. Thank you so very much. And of course, thanks to all of you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And yet again, thanks for watching.